Welcome to this higher self activation. What you're about to hear is a message from your higher self, a part of you that has always been there, observing, guiding, and waiting to be heard. This isn't something you need to figure out. It's something your system can remember. Just take a moment. You don't need to do anything right now. There's no need to focus, no need to get it right. You can just let yourself be here. And as you listen, you can allow the words to simply wash over you, because this isn't about analyzing. It's about listening in a different way. Because something interesting can happen when you do that. Parts of you that have always known can begin to respond. Not because you're trying, but because you are allowing. And maybe you've already noticed that something in you brought you here. Out of all of the things you could be doing, you're here listening to this now, which means on some level you already followed your guidance. You've already done the hardest part. And from here, it's not about searching anymore. It's about remembering. And what you're about to experience is a conversation, not with something outside of you, but with a part of you that has always been there, your higher self. The part of you that sees clearly, that understands, that guides you. And as you listen, you don't need to try to hear anything in a specific way. Sometimes it may feel like words, sometimes like a feeling or like a knowing, and that's enough. Because your system already knows how to recognize it. Your mind, your body, your awareness, they already know this frequency. And now I want to take you somewhere, just somewhere, that might feel strangely familiar to you. In the beginning of time, before things had names, before there was any sense of time, there was just endless space. Space where nothing was missing. Everything simply was. Everything one with the all that is. And within that, there was light. Not something you saw, but something you were. And for a long time, that was enough. Until very gently, a kind of curiosity began to form. Like awareness beginning to look at itself from different angles. And these points of light, you could call them souls. And there were many, many souls. And within them, there was you. And within all of your souls, a quiet curiosity arose. What would it feel like to experience our light from another point of view? To feel contrast, and then to feel our light much deeper again. There was a gentle excitement in that, and also a few questions arose softly from that. What if we forget too much? What if it feels real? What if we get lost in it? And then the response came. You might forget. You might feel things deeply. It might feel very real, but you won't be alone. There will be a part of you that goes with you, a part that stays connected, a part that remembers even when everything else feels confusing. This part is called the higher self. Your higher self will be a quiet way of knowing, a sense of what is true for you and what is not. And when you follow it, things feel lighter, more open. When you move against it, things feel heavier and tighter. But not as punishment, just as guidance, a quiet roadmap woven into you. And you and all these other souls listen to this very closely. And at some point, there was a simple decision, a quiet yes. Yes, I want to experience life on earth. And as that began, everything softened, shifted, and slowly you moved into form, into a space that felt close, warm, and held. And even there, you weren't alone. I, your higher self, was there with you from the very beginning. I was with you as you moved from the light into the womb, as you settled into the womb, held, warm, contained. You could feel yourself, not as something separate, but as something that is becoming. There was a quiet rhythm, a steady heartbeat, a sense of being supported without needing to understand how. And everything felt simple. You didn't have to think, you didn't have to decide, you just were here. And I, your higher self, was with you. Because slowly in the womb, you started to notice sensations, movements, and then feelings. At first, they were soft, almost like ripples, and then some of them felt stronger. You could feel your mother's emotions, and without knowing it, you began to identify with her emotions. You took them on as if they were yours. But I was still there with you, not stopping it, not interfering, just holding the knowing of what was you and what was not. But you didn't need to understand that yet. You were learning what it feels like to experience, to be influenced, to respond. And still, you were very close to me, still connected, still remembering in a way that didn't need words. And then months after that, something began to change. The space that once felt open started to feel tighter and tighter. There were contractions, and it was time for you to leave that comfortable, familiar place. And then, suddenly, everything changed. There was bright synthetic light, sound. It was cold. You were birthed into a world that felt loud, fast, overwhelming, nothing like before. And then you were put into a towel and held in familiar arms again, close and warm. And something in you recognized that feeling, a softness, a sense of safety. And in that moment, I, your higher self, was there, right there with you. And slowly you began to learn that this world had its own rhythm, its own rules. And as you grew bigger, you became more aware of the people around you, their tone, their reactions, their expectations. And you began to adjust. Maybe you noticed that when you behaved in a certain way, you received love, attention, or approval. And so you adapted. You didn't lose me because you failed to maintain the connection. You didn't know that in those moments you were making important decisions and you were creating beliefs about yourself. Small conclusions that felt true. If I am like this, then I am safe. If I do this, then I am loved. If I avoid this, I won't be rejected. And none of this felt like a big decision. It was subtle, almost automatic. You were simply trying to make sense of the world you found yourself in. And all along, I, your higher self, was there with you, holding your truth, even as you began to define yourself in smaller ways. As you entered new environments, school, friendships, social spaces, your world expanded. There were more voices now, more opinions, more comparison. Moments where you got something wrong. Moments where you felt seen or unseen. Moments where you began to question yourself. Am I good enough? Am I like the others? Do I fit in? And in those moments, something subtle happened. You started to listen more to what was outside of you than what was within you. And it didn't happen all at once. It happened gradually. And still, I was there with you, holding your truth in my safe hands, just waiting for the moment you were ready to take your truth back. Because even as you learned to look outward, I was still communicating with you, not in loud ways, not in ways that demanded your attention, but in something much simpler. Every time something felt heavy, tight, or off, that was me. Every time something felt open, clear, and calm, that was me. Those were my whispers, guiding you in the right direction. And sometimes I sounded like you, just without the fear. And when you felt that hesitation before saying something, when you felt that pull towards something you couldn't explain, when something just didn't sit right, even if it looked right, that was me. I wasn't trying to control you. I was guiding you. And yes, there were moments in your life where everything felt simple again. Moments when you were with friends, laughing, completely present, not thinking about who you needed to be. Moments in nature where everything slowed down and you just felt so connected. And in those moments, you were close to me again. You didn't need to try. You just were. And I was there with you. And then there were moments that felt very different, like the first time your heart broke, when something you believed in, something you held on to, suddenly wasn't there anymore. And it felt like everything collapsed, like something inside of you didn't make sense anymore. And in that moment, it felt final. It felt so heavy, so real, so unavoidable. But even there, I was there. While you were inside it, feeling every part of the suffering and pain, I could see beyond it. I could see what this moment would open for you. I could see how this was happening for you instead of to you. I could see who you were becoming through it. I could see the people you would meet, the choices you would make, the strength that would quietly build within you. You thought you were breaking, but something in you was reorganizing. And I was holding that for you the whole time. I was the quiet voice in your head telling you that this is not the end. This is just a new beginning. And life moved on. You healed in many ways you didn't always notice. You met new people. You had new experiences. You found new parts of yourself. And maybe you told yourself you had moved on. But what was really happening was that you grew. And through all of it, I was there with you. There were also moments where you were ready to rise to the next level of your earth experience, where you were meant to shed old layers of your old self. And deep down, you knew it was time to move on, to move forward. But your old identity would just snap you right back into the old ways of living. So I sent you something through your intuition. Something that would move you towards the version of yourself you knew you were meant to be. A thought that would feel different, a book that you found at just the right time, a conversation that stayed with you, a feeling that there may be more. Small things, easy to overlook, easy to dismiss, because most of the time, I don't come through huge signs. I come through simple things. A sentence, a breath, a pause, a quiet yes. These moments weren't random. They were openings. Moments where you could feel something beyond the surface. Moments where you were invited back into awareness. And sometimes you followed them, and sometimes you didn't. And both were okay. Because I was still there with you. Because even as you learned to look outward, I was still communicating with you. not in loud ways, but in something much simpler, and how things felt every time something felt heavy, tight, or off. That was me. Every time something felt open, clear, calm, that was me. And there were moments, very specific moments, where you heard me even more clearly than usual. You would wake up in the morning, and while you were still in a theta brainwave state, you heard me loudly and clearly. Take that step, move that way, make that decision. And you heard it, and you understood the importance of this message because it came from a deeply familiar place. Sometimes you chose to act from it, but sometimes you dismissed it as just a thought, just an idea. And that's all right, because I was still there. You heard me very clearly in meditation when something within you opened just enough. Ideas came in, sometimes guiding you in a direction that felt different from what you were used to. And even if you didn't follow through, something within you recognized it, and I was there. You heard me in the shower, in those moments where the water ran over you and something softened, when the tension of the day began to release and suddenly something made easier. A perspective shifted. A next step became obvious. That was me. I wasn't trying to control you. I was guiding you, using the only thing that could always reach you no matter what, your own experience. And now you're here in this moment listening to this. And this is not random. This is one of those moments, one of those points where something within you is ready to awaken. Because your higher self is not just something you feel, it's something you live from. Because there's something I want you to understand now. There is a spark in every moment. Not every moment feels good, not every moment feels easy, but every moment contains a spark, a truth, a direction, a possibility. Every moment tells you exactly where you are in relation to your higher self. Your emotions are the roadmap. Negative emotions mean you're moving against yourself, and alignment means you're moving with yourself. Your emotions are not your enemy, they are your signal. Your emotions are not here to stop you. They're here to show you where you're giving your power away and where you're ready to return to yourself. They are your guidance system. And once you see that, everything changes. You stop forcing, you stop overthinking, you stop trying to figure it all out. Because you realize you've been guided the whole time. You're at a different point now. You're no longer just reacting, no longer just moving on autopilot. You can choose now. You can notice, you can respond instead of repeating. And the old patterns may still rise. But now you can create a pause. And in that pause, I can reach you. And this world will keep pulling at you. Distraction, stories designed to shift your attention from what actually matters. And I can tell you, the stories will never fully go away. The world will get loud, but loud doesn't mean true. But your power isn't in controlling those stories. Your power is in what you're choosing instead, what you're placing your attention on in every moment. That's the choice. You're not a victim of your patterns. You are the one that can choose again. Your energy matters. The way you move through your life matters. The choices you make, even the small ones, matter. The way you speak, the way you respond, the way you show up, it all creates something. Not just for you, but also for the people around you. You're not just here to be led by fear, by your mood, by old patterns. You're here to lead yourself from the part of you that remembers. And every moment you give it a chance to choose again, to notice that spark again, to follow what feels true, to move just one step closer to yourself. And you don't need the whole path. You just need the next aligned step. Now, what would living as your higher self look like? You wake up in the morning, and before the world comes in, you're already connected. You don't have to search for it anymore. You carry it within you. You move through your day with your eyes open. You notice, you feel, you respond, you don't react. Your emotions stop being something you fight or avoid. They become what they are always meant to be. Data, clear, objective, and direct. Not something you get stuck in, but something you read and move from. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start seeing, what is this showing me? How is this happening for me? And then you move with confidence and clarity and courage. Not because everything is easy, but because you understand what's happening. You understand the rules. You understand the game. You see when old patterns show up, and instead of getting lost in them, you recognize them, you process them, you take the lesson and you move on. You don't stay there because you know you're not meant to suffer forever. You're not meant to stay in confusion and conflict and loops. That was never the point. The point was to experience, to learn, and then to move on. And when you live like this, everything changes. The way you speak, the way you decide, the way you show up, the way you walk into rooms differently. You interact with people differently, not because you're trying to be someone else, but because you're finally being who you are. And that changes things. Because when you're connected like that, you bring something with you, a presence, a clarity, a frequency. And people feel it. Situations shift around it. Things open around it. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you're aligned, because you're no longer split internally. You're moving as one. And this is the truth. This is not out there. This is not reserved for someone else. This is not something you have to earn over years of struggle. This is available to you now because this is who you are. You already carry that frequency within you. Everyone does. But now you're choosing to access it consciously. And from here, it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about staying with it day by day, moment by moment. Returning, remembering, choosing again. And every time you do, it becomes easier, more natural, more stable, until one day, this isn't something you practice anymore. This is just how you live. And now, I want you to choose something, not from your mind, but from that quiet place within you. What is one way you want to stay connected to your higher truth? Maybe it's taking a moment in the morning before your day begins. Maybe it's pausing during the day and noticing how it feels. Maybe it's reflecting in the evening and becoming aware of what guided you. There's no right way, only the way that feels true for you. And every time you follow one small piece of guidance, the path becomes clearer. This is how the relationship to your higher self strengthens, not through one big moment, but through attention, through repetition, through aligned action. Because this doesn't end here. As a result of listening to this audio, you will notice your higher truth more. You will feel your higher truth more clearly. You will recognize things you didn't recognize before. And slowly, it becomes natural again. Because you were never separate. You only learned to look away. And now, you're remembering again who you truly are, your higher self.